I've done the Plateau and the Rosemont countless times, and today I'm exploring Fleury Promenade around Ahuntsic-Cartierville. This is one of the northern points of Montreal, and it's going to be a first time to explore this on the Ahuntsic Cheese Cafe. Stay tuned. You probably already know what I'm drinking, an iced Americano. It's my go-to drink whenever I'm on the road because I love the taste of an espresso. I like to ration if I'm going to be on the road, but at the same time, when it's warm weather, I always want to make sure that it's cool and refreshing. So, welcome to another edition of the Ahuntsic Cheese Cafe. I figured that today in the middle of June, like smack in the middle of June because it is June 15th, I could do a little trip somewhere completely different that I probably only touched briefly, like unintentionally last year. I'm going to be heading up today to Ahuntsic to visit the Fleury Promenade. It's one of those kind of streets that should have a whole bunch of cool shops, nice restaurants, bars, cafes to check out, and I feel like if I did visit that at one point, it was probably years ago without really paying attention to my surroundings. But I actually started off over here on Sacré Fût Street in Villeray to get my coffee for a few reasons. One, I know there's a whole bunch of coffee shops around here, so there was no shortage to get the ration. And two, I wanted to extend my walk because I did have some fried chicken with the family earlier, and even though it wasn't as filling as a KFC dinner would be, I figured that I could use an extra step to just digest a little bit so that whatever I want to eat later on, I'm not going to be limited. And of course, because it's nice weather, it means I can be outside a little bit longer and shoot a few more musical montages if I feel like it. So that's going to be the goal today. I have a few ideas in mind of what I could hit up, and I'll probably share some stories of other similar streets once we do get there. But before we do get started on that, here's my suggestion for you. Hit that subscribe button below, put the notification bell on so that you get pop-ups for any future videos that come up. And let's give me a like. Put the thumbs up down, because with the more... Actually, no, don't put a thumbs up down. That sounds really bad. Give me a thumbs up, because the more likes I get, the more these videos are promoted across YouTube. So you're helping me a lot more than you think. Refreshing. Pretty refreshing, I have to say. Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention when I was inside is that it seems like they make their own roasts too, so it seems like they got their own Italian roasts, something to, I guess, to compete with a lot of the third wave coffees. I see a lot of these coffee shops seem to make their own beans, so I guess it's nothing out of the ordinary. Now, I'm going a little bit further along Sacré Street because I have a few things I could hit up around here. Just a question of which route I'm going to take to get to Fleury Street. And I suppose you're wondering, like, what is Fleury? Well, here's the thing. So Fleury Street for Ahuntsic is a little bit like what I talked about when it comes to Wellington Street in Verdun, Masson and Rosemont, and probably other streets I'm forgetting about. But essentially it's like a nice little stretch of streets where you can have local businesses, coffee shops, restaurants, even places you could grab a drink. So they're all concentrated on there. It's like a little commercial artery. Masson is one of those streets that I actually knew quite a bit from my days growing up because of my grandmother and hearing stories from my family about how they used to visit the shops around there. I've covered it numerous times, but if you want, I'll put a card in the top right corner for one of my last visits to Masson when I did a pint over at La Succursale. So I've actually checked out a couple of other parts of the city for those streets, and there are some cool stuff. Great bars, great pints. Fleury, I feel like I might have passed by there once in my earlier days of the Wander, like the YouTube channel. That time, I feel like I might have passed by the street without even realizing it was like a shopping promenade. So it feels like this is going to be the first time I'm documenting that, to an extent, of course. If you're wondering what I mean to a degree, it's because back last year when I was going up to the Brouhaha Pub, that was right by the venue where I was going to do the Mega Man concert, like the symphonic Mega Man show. It turns out that was at the very end of the promenade, because it stretches between Saint-Hubert Street, which I'm currently walking along right now, and then gets up to Papineau Avenue. So it covers quite a bit of ground in that area. I just didn't realize at the time that was all part of that stretch, but I've heard it's supposed to be nice. One of my buddies, Canadian Dave, in the comments section said there's some cool spots around there, and it just made me think I should do some exploring besides Plateau and Rosemont. It's like I said, I've been trying to consciously explore a little bit more beyond my comfort zone. Oh yeah, by the way, if you want to see that Brouhaha Pub for a bit, I'll put a card in the top right corner once again. Whether I make a stop there along the way today, I don't know, because a few places that I did on preliminary research that I may need to hit up. So I made my way onto Crémazie Boulevard, and right above that is going to be the Metropolitan or Autoroute 40. I'm not sure if this is part of the Trans-Canada Highway that you would get, but for local purposes, this is the highway that would take you off the island of Montreal from the east and to the west, and will let you get from western Montreal to eastern Montreal relatively quickly if there's no traffic along the way. So this, you'd be able to get from Pointe-aux-Trembles in the far east end up to like Sainte-Anne-de-Bellevue along the West Island, so covers a lot of ground. But the other thing too about Crémazie is if I was to go north from the Metropolitan, then I would be crossing into Ahuntsic and getting away from Villeray. As far as things that are interesting around here, I know if I was going to be going further along to La Jeunesse, which is west and close to Saint-Denis, that would take me close to l'Auberge du Dragon Rouge, which is a medieval restaurant that I wanted to visit on my last episode, which sadly I wasn't able to because it turns out I needed to get a reservation. So I'll see if I can get that to work down the road. Other than that, I'm sure there's other stuff within the area. Oh yeah, Fleury Promenade, like I said, but there's also Marché Central, which is on the western side of here, which is very similar to the Quartier 1030 in Brossard that's been developing over the last few decades. Funny enough that I don't think I've really been on this side of Saint-Hubert Street ever. At least I don't recall, because I didn't think that this part of the street would be two ways. Like, I know about that stretch that's from Mount Royal Avenue up until Jean Talon, or actually even to Jarry or so, where it would be one way only. This, it does extend. But I guess it's the same thing with a lot of the other streets here. Like, Papineau Avenue does become an autoroute once you get north of the Metropolitan Highway, and then it goes from like 3-4 lanes on each side. Yeah, seems like I've only scratched the surface of this area too, a little bit like my walk through NDG. Well, I'll be. So I didn't even realize that Chabanel Street stretched this far. So I probably told it before, but Chabanel, if you go like towards Saint Laurent or more west, was the old garment district in Montreal. Actually, I think it's still the garment district because I do hear that there's some fashion outlets that are still working around there. That's another area may need to explore in a future episode one of these days, because the Silo Brewery is not far from there. Interesting.
Just to remind you of two hearts living in just one mind. You know it's too hard living in just one mind.
I've now made my way onto Sacré Street East. So that means I'm going to be getting pretty close to Fleury, because the point of reference for me is that Sauvé on the subway line is actually going to be the last stop before you get to Henry Bourassa, which is a stop you would get to if you want to go there directly by subway, or in my case just walk like a fool. So I do have some other flashbacks when I'm on the street now, because I do recall like back in 2017, I was on a vacation around the time that HMV was closing down, and for me, I was kind of trying to apply for a new job at the time, but also doing some wanders, since I had a lot of thinking to do and just reflect on the fact that in a short while I'd be out of a job. So I remember getting off around Beaubien Metro, then walking north along Saint-Hubert Street, and probably some other detours up until I got to like the Sauvé station. So that's kind of what I remembered about that. Some houses, some dépanneurs, other restaurants around here, but I feel like that this part of the city would be for another episode, just because there's not enough time to do everything I want to do in one day. So it just goes to show that as I'm looking back at some of these streets I might have explored ages ago, you know, in my pre-YouTube days, it just goes to show I've kind of always been a wanderer myself. Whether it's because I did a lot of walking as a kid, I did some explorations with my family to get to random parts of the city. I don't know, it just kind of rubbed off on me. And I guess as time has gone on, with the new stuff that I'm discovering around here, it just gave me more destinations, and it's gonna let me continue to explore. And if people are watching this and they're enjoying my explorations, I hope you make the most of it. If not, well, I'll just say, it's my life. Cue the musical montage now.
It's a hard world to get a break in. All the good things have been taken. But girl, there are ways to make certain things pay. Though I'm dressed in these rags, I'll wear sable someday. Hear what I say. I'm gonna ride this serpent. No more time spent sweating rent.
Quite the walk that I've done over here. I've now made my way onto Fleury for the first time in a while, and probably the first time I'm going to fully document it. So this is once again new ground for me, because I'm not too familiar with this street. I'm sure I'm going to be able to find some interesting places I could grab a drink, like, oh, well, this is pretty interesting. It's a bar saloon. It's called Bienvenue. I suppose this is one area that you could always feel welcome with. Lost my words. It's one area that you could probably feel welcome with just by walking in, because it's in the title. It's a bit like Cheers. Yeah, my parents used to watch that, so that's kind of how I'm familiar with it. It's why I know a lot about old TV shows. La Molisana seems like a nice Italian restaurant if I ever wanted to get Italian again. Pizza, pasta, it's all good stuff. There's something else across the street called the Uber Bar. Oh, and there's also a 900 pizzeria here. So 900s are all over the place. The Uber Bar. I see Belle Gueule is the beer that they're advertising, but let's keep going to see if there's something else that catches my eye. Seems to be some interesting architecture with some of the churches around here, because the main point of reference I got for them is the churches here, the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary and St. Sophie's Ukrainian Orthodox Church. But those are definitely unique in the area, and also unique in a lot of churches for that matter. They don't really build them like they used to. interesting. Chez Clémentine over here, that is some small grocery store that's on Beaulieu Street, not far from my Botch's old area. But forgot that there was a second location over here. I'm sure you got a similar selection of fruits, vegetables, charcuterie, and also the microbrewery beers. Maybe eventually I should give it a visit again. Well, that's kind of a funny sign there. Sacré Fût, or translated to English, means sacred draft. It's definitely a bar, and it seems like it's appropriate that a bar like that is named that on the corner of that and Sacré Fût. Pretty funny. Somehow I feel like I'm going to be getting a drink over there. I don't know, just my gut feeling. What the? Huh. Well, I see a familiar sign up here. If you follow me a lot on my wanders along Saint Laurent, you probably know a store that's called Montreal Images. Apparently, there's a location over here that I didn't realize. It looks like there's some other stuff, like maybe some views of Montreal, some Tintin paraphernalia. The one thing I'm kind of missing is that map of the Montreal subway system done in the style of Super Mario Brothers. Maybe they have it inside, but I can always check inside because that is pretty awesome.
Help me share my load.
Restaurant called Chez Mon Grand-Père seems to have some cheesecake and something called Chef Jiggly. Looks more like a panda. I don't know, I see Jiggly, I think Jigglypuff. Ooh, and there's another one that caught my eye here called the Walter Bistro. It's not open yet, but I think I saw they have some good burgers, good tartare, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Maybe I'll take a look. Although that dapper looking dog as their mascot is kind of adorable.
Let's enjoy it while we can.
Let's enjoy it while we can.
Help me share my load.
This part is getting a little bit more residential, even though it's still designated as the Fleury Promenade. So that probably means I'm getting to the tail end of it. I think I'm going to be getting very close to Papineau Avenue, which means that once I get there, I'm going to head my way back and then see what I do for a starter pint. Like I said, I had a few spots that came up that I could probably hit up, just a question of which one. So one way of knowing that I've hit up the end of the Fleury Promenade on Papineau Avenue is seeing this spot right over here, the Brouhaha Pub. This is a spot that I hit up when I went to go see the Mega Man concert back in November. So I had some good beers here, great pizza, and one thing I do see on here is that they advertise having the best poutine in the city. So I don't know, it's quite the claim to make because everyone's going to say I have the best poutine, best chicken wings. I don't know if I'm going to give this place a shot because I was here a while ago. Yeah, I think I was already here. If anything, I could save for later on, but I think I'm going to save my time for something brand new. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back westward and then get a draft. Funny thing just happened a second ago. I'm getting served and then I was asked by my server, wait, didn't I serve you here last week? Even though last week I was not in the Ahuntsic whatsoever, I was in Rosemont, I was in Villeray, so I didn't exactly come here. It's just funny to think that there's someone else who looks like me wandering around. They probably aren't like me walking around with a camcorder recording their little explorations in Montreal. So, first stop I had to do was Sacré Fût, because I figured with a name like that, and given the fact that a lot of people enjoy beer, it's like, you know, you take it seriously, it just screamed my name. So taking a look at the menu over here, it looks like there's a lot of burgers, poutines, stuff with fries, so it's like a greasy spoon type of place that you can have stuff to eat. Even some beef tartare, salmon tartare, which looked like it was relatively affordable. My guess is that it's the tartare with just the chips on the side, as opposed to having it with a salad or fries, because from my experience, that's where you're going to get it from about $20 and upwards, depending on the restaurant you're going to. But obviously, because I'm still digesting that fried chicken from earlier today, I'm just going for a fine beverage. It's an organic beverage, which I'm not sure what exactly makes it organic, but it's L'Instant de Bonheur from the Vagabond Brewery. This is one I'm actually familiar with because I've had this at the bistros around my house called La Belle et la Barbe. The thing about that place is that they have all microbrewery beers as opposed to Coors Light, Rickard's Red, like the usual stuff you'd find in most bars. And this was one of the first ones that they had on tap of the 4. So it's pretty appropriate. That bistro is located in my hometown of Saint-Hubert. And given the fact that I was walking along Saint-Hubert Street earlier, it's double Saint-Hubert. So cheers to the first, well, technically the second beer I'm having in the Ahuntsic because I did document Brouhaha earlier. Ah yes, delicious. It's a bit more hoppy than I usually get because normally I pick up the New England IPA, which is a little bit more tropical, but they didn't have anything like that on the menu here. At least not one that I haven't highlighted, because they did have the Unibrew India Pale Lager, but I've already had that at Huis Clos last week over at the Villeray, so I think I'm gonna try something different instead. Delicious. You know, every time I come to a bar, I always like to see what is pretty unique on the menu to see if there's something else that catches my eye that's either rare, brand new like a house beer, or something I've never had before. If I also look at the selection here, it seems like it's a pretty typical one you find in most places. Like you have a lot of Unibrew that's made in Chambly. They do have Sleeman on tap, which as far as I can see, there's only a handful of bars I've been to that have that. And the first one that comes to mind is Le Grand Lionel. That's on Beaubien, just like around the block from where my grandmother used to live. And they do have some microbrewery stuff, but it seems like that's mostly the cans or bottles. So it's kind of nice for what you could get here. And I like the fact that they got Saison Libre, because that's actually one of my go-tos if you want something like a Saison / farmhouse ale, but something that's lighter than an IPA. Yeah, the Sleeman caught me off guard, because that's not something I see very often. It's like, you go to a bar and you still see a few of them that have Pabst Blue Ribbon. Because when you think of a lot of the typical classic beers, you think Labatt 50, Molson Dry, yeah, stuff like that. But Pabst, that's hard to find. And good luck trying to find a place that has Carling Black Label on tap. I don't know, maybe I need to explore a little bit more to find something like that. But speaking of exploring, I'm kind of thinking this is going to be a one and done here, because there are some other spots along the street that I want to hit up. Just a question of if I want to go backwards, maybe check out the Bienvenue Bar, make my way back to Walter Bistro, or maybe go to Brouhaha again and document it on the terrace. All that shall be seen very shortly. Okay, I had to laugh a little bit because I'm looking up at the shelf of this bar and I could see that they have a copy of Titanic on VHS. And if you were like me and you grew up with that, you remember that that film was about 2 cassettes long, because that was a pretty long movie for the time. Although not as long as, let's say, Once Upon a Time in America or The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, or even like the 10 Commandments for that matter. But I'm getting kind of sidetracked over here. I decided to come to the Uber bar that I had passed by earlier in the walk because I want to do something a little bit different, and the beer menu caught my eye a little bit. Plus, chatting with the bartender, I kind of learned a little bit about the area. Apparently, if I was to come here on a Sunday, this is actually a pretty dead time because a lot of the businesses are going to be closed. Like, the further away you get from downtown, apparently, some stuff closes early or they just close, period. So it's good to keep in mind. And at least I'm here on a day where things are going to be pretty lively. So the Uber bar. If you're from this generation, you know Uber for the ride-sharing facilities, but Uber, I think, is also another way of saying, like, it's an adjective for saying supreme or extreme or like ultra. So it's like Uber, like uber cheesy, uber drunk, uber active. Like, that's the way you would use that. And the main reason I came here is because there is some similarities in the brews that they have on tap, like what they had over at Sacré Fût. And there was one in particular that caught my eye, which I thought I could do. Originally, I thought this was Saint-Ambroise, but according to the tap, it says Belle Gueule, and it's their cold IPA. So cold IPAs are a thing that I've been seeing a lot these days. Apparently, unlike regular IPAs, a lot of it has to do with the temperature that you're fermenting it. So if you apparently ferment these beers at a colder temperature compared to room temperature, it affects the flavor, it affects the taste. I don't know, I'm still trying to get used to the whole IPA ordeal, or I guess the cold brew for that matter. But in the end, brew is brew, and that's really all that counts. Yeah, hoppy, it's refreshing, and not too, it doesn't seem very bitter, I find, because some IPAs can be so bitter that it feels like it's a chore to drink. This one is very refreshing, and it makes me think back to the Belle Gueule breweries that I went to. Oh yeah, there was last year, like maybe less than a year ago, when I went to that, before going to Larry's to get some beef tartare on the terrace. If you want to see that one, I'll put a link in the top right corner for you to watch it and revisit some good times. So one thing that's actually catching my attention is the music in here. It's making me feel very nostalgic, because we got Del Shannon playing right now, heard some Lionel Richie earlier, and it's making me think back to my parents. Del Shannon is a song Runaway, which if you know a lot of 50s rock and roll and early 60s, you probably heard this one before. For me, it's something that we've heard a lot growing up because, and I probably mentioned this a lot, but I think back to the station Oldies 990 that existed, and my parents used to have that playing in the car when we were doing drives to visit my botch up in Rosemont. So it kind of makes me think back to warm memories when I was a kid at that time. It's funny, you hear some songs and some of them can take you back to a certain period in your life. And I mentioned it again, like in the past episodes, I've said before that some songs that I hear that came out in 1998 and 1999, it makes me think, yep, this is high school music. Like case in point, Lorena McKennitt, Madonna, Backstreet Boys, Chumbawamba, like that's all stuff that I heard when I was an early teenager in high school. And it made me think that the pop charts at the time were so like all over the place. Like back then, anything could have gone into this thing. Power pop, like girl groups from the Spice Girls, Madonna with her electronica, Lorena McKenna with her like danceable folk music. There was a lot of diversity, for lack of a better term for that. Yeah, so far, I'm liking the vibe here. I'm liking hearing some of the music and some of the music talk that's happening around the bar. But I think this is going to be a one and done here because as much as I'm enjoying this, I will want to hit up somewhere else to digest a little further and maybe see if there's anywhere else I can explore. It could be the Walter Bistro that I saw earlier. It could be some other random restaurant. Or for all I know, I could end up back at Brouhaha, just like I did on my last vlog in Ahuntsic. So we're going to wait and see about that. Pretty good brew, and nice little chatting with the bartender over here, who was very sympathetic and just enjoyed sharing some of the stories also. Had a good run so far. Now I got to find a good spot to be able to get some eating done. Trying to think, is there something else here that's brand new that I want to explore? Or do I just want to say fuck it and maybe go back to Brouhaha and get a pizza over there? I don't know. It's a big question because I'm not really feeling the fried chicken anymore, so I think I can stomach whatever comes my way. Screw it, Brouhaha it is, in case I want to do a taster platter. So I didn't feel like thinking too hard today, and I decided I was going to come back to Brouhaha just because I like the beer here. I was getting kind of an itch for some smoked meat because they mentioned on the sign outside that they have their own in-house smoked meat along with the best poutine in Montreal, but again, that's a debate for another time. And I don't think I highlighted it properly the last time I was here just because I was on a tight time frame due to the fact that I was waiting for the Mega Man concert and figured why not. So once again, this spot here is a little bit like the Rosemont, the spot I hit up back in like February 2023, which sadly seems like it's been closing down if Instagram is telling me the truth. So it's another good bar that seems to be going away. But this spot, it's not going anywhere, and it's once again the edge of the Fleury Promenade, and it felt like a good way to top things off. And because I was doing 2 IPAs earlier today, I thought I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go for something else, a Grisette, which is supposed to be a French-style farmhouse ale, or like a saison. Let me just get the name of it again. Grisette Piquette Riesling. So this one is like 4.5%, so it's lighter compared to the IPAs I did, but it's a perfect way to kind of go back down to reality before my smoked beef platter comes. So cheers everybody, here's to next round. So, it definitely feels very citrusy and very refreshing. Typical of a Grisette, of the ones I've had in the past, so it's a pretty awesome one. And it's a great way to have something to keep me busy until my smoked meat comes. I'll be sure to show it up once it's ready.
I was just torn down a la Rambo, and I wish my message would come.
You know, it's a really small world, I have to say, because I was actually just chatting with one of the staff over here, and she asked, didn't I see you in Memento a little while back? And I was just thinking back to my memory, and I've only been to that brewery in Point St. Charles like twice in my life. Once I was doing that video on rediscovering like where my dad was growing up when he was first born, and another time over last summer when I was just exploring Point St. Charles a little bit after doing a beer at Brouhaha de Montreal. Yeah, I never expected I'd get this happening. It's almost as funny as having someone come up to me at the central station asking, hey, aren't you the Wandering Yuki? Crazy. But nevertheless, my supper is here, and I decided to do a smoked meat sandwich with some fries, and they asked what kind of must I want, either baseball or old-fashioned. Because I like Dijon, I thought I'd go for the old-fashioned, and the reason I went for the smoked meat is because when you look on their sign up front, they always say that they did their smoked meat in-house, which I have to give it a shot, since when you look at the process of making your own smoked meat, it's not simple at all. And the reason for that is that first, you have to get yourself a brisket, which if you look at the pieces of beef, it's the cow's chest, and that alone is not very cheap at all. You're like, for some pieces, you're looking at maybe $100 upwards, and then if you're going to be preparing it, you know, for smoking it, you got to put in salt, pepper, spices in a brine in the fridge for about 48 hours before you smoke it up. I thought of maybe doing it on the channel, but then I have to think, am I ambitious enough to do that on my own? I don't know if I am, so anytime someone is going to be saying to do that in-house, I am going to give it a shot. And I'm having some trouble with this. There we go. Smoked meat pull for the win. And the fries, well, I've had the fries here before when I had my pizza the last time, and they're awesome. So we're going to do a quick taste test of the smoked meat. Perfect timing too, because my next beer came up. And this is a saison that's actually done in-house. I'm going to look up the name afterwards, but I'll tell you when we get right back. pretty good smoked meat over here, I have to say. Once again, the fact they say they make their smoked meat in-house is something to behold because, like I said, I've looked up the recipe and pas encore, mais donne-moi quelques minutes. Parfait. Ah, pas de stress. Ça arrive des fois. Yeah, I'm in my own bubble when I'm recording, but sometimes when people jump in, it happens. It's not as funny as people, video bombing me at the past. So again, smoked meat is pretty good because I've looked up the recipe how to do it at home. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money since you're buying a brisket. So it is what it is, and I'm pretty happy with my meal. And I didn't even get to the finishing pint over here. So it's actually one of their house beers that's on tap right now, the Saison Ahuntsic-Cartierville. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that because I'm going to end up butchering it. But it seems like it's a Saison au poivre sauvage de Madagascar, which means, a Madagascar wild pepper Saison. I don't know what that means, but I kind of like it because I am a huge fan of Saisons. Like, perfect example, if I'm at Ile de Garde, I'm always going to get the Saison Dragon just because it's a bit stronger, but I love my Saisons. In addition to the New England IPAs. So overall, great day. Nice way to explore the Fleury Promenade and finish off here with a good meal. The only thing I'm wondering about is if I could get a coffee on the way home, just because, it is Saturday night. There's a good chance that all the cafes are closed at 6 p.m., but maybe I'll be lucky and find someplace that isn't Tim Hortons or the Mad Clown Parlor. But we'll see. But until then, thanks for watching this latest edition of the Wandering Cheese Cafe. So if you like what you see, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button below. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy my wanders, my walks, stories that I'm telling, my antics and everything that comes with it. And if you have an idea for future episodes, leave in the comment section. I'll see what I could do. But until then, take care, see you next time, and hope your summer is going well. Because let's face it, with the rate that I'm going, this episode is going to drop around the end of July. It is what it is when you're prolific. And one more for the road.